during that nebulous time before I started college. So in that time frame, my aunt and uncle started paying me to basically keep my youngest nephew company. They said it was babysitting, but he was in his preteens, and honestly, he didn't need a lot of taking care, he didn't need to be taken care of. They just felt more comfortable in a crime-ridden place like Puerto Rico if I kept him company while they were at work. And it felt kind of silly for them to pay me because basically I just sat there on their couch reading comics while he was watching TV, mostly cartoons, mostly anime. And he had a voracious appetite for anime, and he would watch Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon, Sailor Moon, and One Piece, among many others. And yes, it was the 4Kids TV, Funimation, One Piece. I know you hate it, and with good reason. However, like I just said, even a bad adaptation of something moves the franchise forward. And if it wasn't for that particular iteration of One Piece, I wouldn't know about it. My cousin wouldn't be a fan. He has grown up to be a super hardcore fan and has collected every issue of the manga and has watched every iteration of the anime. So please keep that in mind before you start hating on that particular version of One Piece with the insanely catchy rap song that fully and efficiently explains the plot line and the characters almost better than the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles thing. Anyway, so that's how I watched One Piece, and like I said, I must have watched about 3 dozen episodes, because as I was watching the live action version, the bulk of what I saw was very familiar to me. As far as checking out the live action version, even though I'm not a super hardcore fan that knows the franchise inside and out, I always intended to. I saw the first teaser trailer, specifically, you can still find it on YouTube. Specifically the one that has the one and only joke in it is Luffy calling out one of his finishing maneuvers, and then he turns to Zoro and says, every great fighter calls out their finishing moves, and Zoro says, no, they don't. I saw that, and it was just 1 minute of footage from the season, and I was like, oh, this looks like a shitload of fun. I'm definitely going to watch this. And of course, all the comments attached to the video, all the discourse on social media, just completely negative. Just people just taking a big fat smelly dump on 1 minute worth of footage of an 8-hour show. They 100%, just from that 1 minute of clips, did they know that this was going to be bad. And I just had this feeling of trepidation in the months leading up to the premiere of Netflix One Piece, because I knew I was going to watch it. I knew even if it wasn't perfect, even if it wasn't the best made Netflix series ever, it was still going to be fun. It was going to be an enjoyable experience, but then I was going to have to endure weeks of people just bitching about it on social media. So, boy, am I relieved that that's not the case, that I enjoyed it, and apparently the hardcore fans enjoyed it, and the show has encouraged, has created this wonderful, beautiful, positive response, and which I feel is something that we desperately need right now after the past 6 years that we've experienced with the previous political climate and the pandemic, and then just in these past 2 weeks, we've had about 10 really tragic celebrity deaths in a row, from Paul Rubens to Arlene Sorkin, just one after the other, and I feel like there's just a lot of dread in the air. So for One Piece to come along and encourage cheer and happiness and positivity, it's wonderful. And I think that's one of the many, 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 many reasons that this show has taken off. One question that I keep hearing everywhere amongst the viewers and amongst the cast, every time the cast does an interview promoting the show, they get the same question, which is, why do you think One Piece has a universal appeal, unlike other anime? It's very simple, really. One Piece, very much like Star Wars, takes a lot of classic ideas from storytelling, from literature, repackages them in a cool and interesting new way, and retells that story in that same story, but new, unique, interesting way of telling it. Like Star Wars, it is something that feels familiar but new. And there's no better bridge for storytelling, for creating a franchise than that. But what I've always felt, even back then, sitting on my aunt and uncle's couch, watching One Piece over my cousin's shoulder, the one thing that really sets One Piece apart, I think one of the reasons why it resonates with as many people as it does, is simply the character of Monkey D. Luffy. There's this idiotic belief that for a character or a franchise to be appealing, it needs to be greedy and dark and edgy. But the fact of the matter is that, in a world filled with cynicism and apathy, you need a character like him. You need a character who's positive, who is optimistic, who doesn't believe in giving up, who is blissfully, delightfully, unapologetically naive. And it is that naiveness that is his superpower, not the stretchiness. The stretchiness is just a visual representation of his greater self. No. In the case of Monkey D. Luffy, ignorance, the saying ignorance is bliss, he represents that to the highest degree. The guy doesn't know how to sail. He doesn't know how to read a map. But he wants to pursue the greatest treasure the world has ever known, so he can be king of the pirates. Yet, he doesn't possess the skills to find said treasure, but he's gonna do it anyway. That in itself does not deter him from his goal. And that is one of the most beautiful and inspirational things you will ever witness. He's one of the most inspirational characters in the history of fiction for that reason. And in his pursuits, of course, he finds people who complete them, who have the skills that he needs to achieve his goal. He finds a broken family. He might not be a very disciplined character, but Zoro is. He might not be very practical character, but Nami is. He might not be a very creative character, but Usopp is. He might not have a lot of finesse, but Sanji does have finesse. So these makeshift characters, these found family, that 100% complete each other, this unit together at the core of this franchise, that's what makes it stand out. We've seen stories about pirates. We've seen stories about treasure hunts. We've seen plenty of franchises that take place in a kooky-wacky stylized world with people with superpowers and different bands of criminals with different